everybody? Alicia G here with NRW, bringing you the NEW, and we're on episode 3 of the mixtape. And I am here with MarcusD, Shing02 and EyeQ. We're going to talk some music here. So, what were your guys' introduction to hip hop, and what made you guys fall in love with the genre?
My first introduction to it was a mixtape my brother gave me when I was about 8 years old. I think that must have been like 1998. So I was kind of on the cusp of the end of the 90s into the 2000s. And I fell in love with the production behind an artist named Royce da 5'9". A lot of his stuff was just really hard-hitting, like street beats. And I actually fell in love with the sound of it and how they sampled the stuff. So I think my initial intro into it was kind of wondering how the music was made and what kind of equipment was used to actually produce that type of sound.
That's it?
I mean, other than that, afterwards when I was in high school, I'd been a piano player for a long time, and basically a lot of my friends were rappers and they needed beats, so I kind of took it upon myself to get involved in the production side of it and started making beats for a lot of the rappers in my neighborhood, and started learning the programs and the equipment and everything. So I've just always been interested in music for a long time, and then kind of the amalgamation of different types of sounds and genres within hip hop is what really interested me in it, and then eventually got into Shing02's music and Nujabes as well. And from there, I've just kind of continued to try and grow and learn more about the culture and the art and sharpen my own craft.
What about y'all? Did y'all want to?
Yeah, for me, I had the opportunity to grow up in different countries when I was a kid. I was born in Japan, but raised in Tanzania, and then also London. Probably when I was so my initial, experience, I was very, very close to the beat of the drum, like from a very, very early age. I think that had some subliminal effect on me, now that I think about it. And when I was in London, I saw a lot of breakdancing happening, this in the early 80s. But I was always an art kid, so I was never active on the dance floor or anything like that. I was always a kid drawing things and showing to people, passing them out. And then that kind of translated to me going back to Japan and hibernating from American pop culture for a while, but I continued on drawing a lot. And then when I went to the States for the first time when I was a freshman in high school, I was still drawing a lot, and eventually I got drawn into like graffiti culture, and I was just an avid listener of music. I really liked Far Side and Tribe Called Quest, Diggable Planets, like that type of really groovy sample-based music.
Oh yeah.
And I went to UC Berkeley fall of 1993. And that's when everything exploded for me. I met Del Funky Homo Sapien. I gave him a drawing that I did of him, and that kind of became a friendship where he mentored me for a lot of things. He taught me a lot, just through osmosis. I just learned a whole lot. And then I eventually met everybody on the scene in Telegraph. So everybody from Oakland were there, all of Hieroglyphics, Hobo Junction. All the members became living legends.
Oh wow, yeah.
All of those guys are like close friends in my heart, not by blood, but they treated me like family. And all the DJ community, I could go on. And you just learned a lot and then you eventually became a product of the environment too. So I was very lucky that I learned the indie aspect of creating your own craft and putting it out there. And I also was lucky in that I learned a lot of different elements from these mentors, that it wasn't just about music, it was about education, it was about activism and it was about representing yourself, no matter what you look like, you know? The climate was very open for Asian Americans, Japanese kids. It didn't really matter. English wasn't your first language, as long as you represented well. And yeah, 25 years later, I'm basically doing the same thing.
I don't even want to start because I would say that my love for hip hop didn't stem from hip hop per se. It was a love of music. And growing up, my mom, she played a lot of different music for me. I come from Brooklyn, so obviously it was only a matter of time before hip hop hit you. I can't even remember what specific song because my mom played so much different stuff. So for me, the one thing that always sticks out is I love the Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
I always loved him and DJ Jazzy Jeff. And the song for me, I remember one of the things that sealed it for me is, there's the Brand New Funk, which was my joint. But when Jeff was on the beatbox, right, I watched it on the Apollo, and watching the two of them together, like I knew that it was the format for me. Like if I was gonna make music, I wasn't gonna be a singer. I was gonna do that. You know?
Oh yeah.
And it was just like the coolest thing. And if you from Brooklyn, you know, like the Apollo was where you watch people come and just shine. And so I loved it all. And I would listen to everything from gangster rap to Diggable Planets. I would listen to who were some other people that really stuck out. Obviously Rakim, and I was all over the place. So I guess that would be my answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wrote a lot of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the writing stemmed also from my poetry, and learning to express myself in that way helped me later on in writing rhymes.
No doubt.
Music is a very powerful thing. Music is probably the most important thing on the planet. I feel like music is poison, but it can also be the cure. You don't make music for other people. You make it for yourself first, because that's you.
When you guys are creating your music, whether it's production or emceeing and writing lyrics, what is your process for getting the songs out there, for getting them started?
So for me, I think the first process and my favorite process ultimately is digging for the sample or the records, because I think that in the crates there's more that you can learn there than from anywhere else, in my opinion, about music, because essentially it's like studying, it's independent study. Like when you go to the vinyl stores or record stores now, it's just, if you know what you're looking for, even if you don't, you start to find a path or a way to find what you're looking for, and eventually it turns into your sound because it's the samples that you're using and it's the music that you love and that you're basically curating. So, when somebody uses a sample that may be from a fairly unknown artist back from the 70s or whenever, and the rap jack, or whatever becomes famous, in turn it makes the sample famous, and it makes that artist who created that music back in the day famous as well, and also become a bigger and larger part of history and something that's bigger than what they were when they made it. So I think as an artist myself, I would like to make music eventually that becomes a part of something new and that somebody else can use in their their creation of music and just kind of give back to the culture in that sense. Because the sampling and the digging for the records is just, I never get tired of it. And I go at least 3 to 4 times a week. Living in Tokyo, it's easy to find record stores. And I'm now able to kind of run my own kind of limited version of a record store and bring it to different places. And overall, I just really love finding new music and finding old music that's new to me. So kind of my process for making music is just starting with music, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome point, and I literally just came from the African American History Museum at the Smithsonian, so I'm kind of in the historical mindset. But to me, I wholeheartedly agree with Marcus. That's what the origin of hip hop is. That's what the origin of DJing is. It's about selecting and curating, and also archiving sounds and collaging sounds. So even legally speaking, given the right avenues, you are spotlighting certain artists from the past that one might never discover otherwise, because history is sometimes generous to only a select few. I mean, it's fair, much like athletes, they get picked, over time, filtered by the audience. But there are countless other people who were just as good, but they just didn't catch that break. And in terms of sampling, you can bring that back. And hopefully in time they will get the credit, if not the check for it. You know what I'm saying? So purely in terms of creativity or even legally, sampling is a great way to keep the culture alive. And you can break it down in so many different ways, like musically, academically. You're doing some high-level work of art, as opposed to the current way of production, which is just using software synthesizers and whatnot, And there's no right answer. Is also the beauty of hip hop too. You can use software on your phone or synthesizers that are antique or new, drum machines that are old or new, and that's how music was made back in the day too. So, and going back to your question, my origin is always, from listening to samples and listening to the vibe of it, and really using your imagination. What type of tone would go along with it? What type of topic would go along with it? Is it aggressive? Is it peaceful? So it all depends, right? If you hear an aggressive track, you want to say something aggressive, and it's as simple as that. So it really comes from catching the vibe. It's almost like freestyling on the spot, but you're eventually organizing it into a verse or a song. And yeah, it's just a process that you enjoy, and as in the case of Marcus, it just turns into a discipline that you keep doing and you never get tired of it. And I still feel the same way. If I don't dig for records, I dig for producers that I like, and even within them, I will keep asking till I get the right beat that I want to. I'm pretty picky about that. And then when the right beat comes along, the right topic comes along, and then in retrospect, it was all meant to be, and that's like the best feeling.
That reminds me of Parallel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
When we were working on that, you went through like 75 to 100 of my beats at my house.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. I played like almost every beat that I had, I think. And when I was playing them, there were probably like 5 or 6 that you really liked. They were like more like battle beats. And you're going through them, and it's just like, nah, not that one, not that one. Yeah, I like that one. And then we came across Parallel Universe, and I was like, I really hear you on this, and I know that you were digging for my stuff to find, the vibe.
Yeah.
And I was digging for something
Right.
as well from you, like a sound that I wanted.
Right.
And from that point on, we've kind of been able to make different types of tracks, because we're not just one-dimensional.
Right.
We're human beings that have different feelings and different expressions that we want to get out there.
Right.
So.
Right, literally and figuratively. And that sounds kind of picky, on my part, but I can only do that with people who have a catalog. You know, what if someone only had 5 beats that are available? You know, I can only be picky among 5. And if he has a whole stack, yeah, of course I want to listen to them, you know? And until you catch a vibe. It might happen on the first try, it might happen on the, 80th try, like you said.
And now I've been told we are running out of time, so unfortunately we got to wrap this up. But thank you all for coming out and sitting and talking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, we're here with MarcusD, Shing02, and EyeQ, and this is NRW and the Mixtape. And we'll see you next time at Otakon 2019. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.